Two balls and a strike to count on Taylor. Reyes fires, swinging a drive, deep left field. This is way back. Walk the ball. Chris Taylor.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into DodgerHeads, presented by DodgerBlue.com. If you thought this was going to be just a normal, casual Monday with no breaking news, bad news for you. Breaking news for the Dodgers today, which is Tony Gonsolin headed to the injured list. And so I'm joined today by Will Carroll of Under the Knife, injury expert on social media, to discuss this. Will, I appreciate your time. What can you tell us about what you know, what you've heard regarding Tony Gonsolin, and what this means moving forward?
Yeah, we don't know much about this at this stage, but we know this is one of the injuries you do not want to see. We never even got to see this six-man rotation and how they were going to handle it, because even before Clayton Kershaw comes back, there goes the cat man, and it's tough to see with such a great season. With flexor strains, and let's be clear about what this is, it's a muscle it's a tendon that attaches from the elbow into the forearm. It's one of those things that Dodger fans probably know too well, having just lost Walker Buehler. He also had his ulnar collateral ligament damaged and reconstructed by Neil Elitrosh. So it's still a little fresh for people. You've got to be worried about whether or not this is the same sort of thing. And at least on the surface of what we know, it is sort of the same thing. We often see flexor strains become more problematic. Tendons in general don't heal very well. Ligaments, we just reconstruct them. We barely repair them. But with tendons, you're basically sewing things back together. And think about this. We've all had that little piece of gristle in a steak where it's kind of, you're trying to pull it off the bone and it won't go. That's a tendon. Imagine trying to stitch that back together. Hopefully, this is a mild strain where only, there's some tearing, some stretching of the fibers there. But certainly this doesn't look like a rupture or something where he's immediately heading to surgery. What they'll be doing is hitting him with some anti-inflammatories. So he's probably seen some needles today. Usually hit him with biologic agents. PRP can be done very, very quickly. Beyond that, you can do things like aspirated stem cells and a couple others. But really, the first reaction to this is seeing how his body responds to both rest and treatment.
Yeah. I mean, look, as a Dodger fan, you hear just like Walker Buehler, and as you said, that's the doom and gloom. We interacted a bit. You said that's kind of the worst case scenario. I know Jack Harris of the LA Times just tweeted that the Dodgers believe they've caught this on the front end. As somebody who's in this world, what does that mean that they caught it on the front end? Basically that it's a slight tear and they think that had they not caught it, it would have continued to get worse, but maybe it's not as bad as it could have been?
Exactly. If you can catch something early, there's less tearing. If you're only tearing here, getting a little bit of fraying rather than going over and over. We all have that one favorite pair of socks that's getting threadbare, and you see one little hole and you think, I'll get it. And then now you got a bunch of holes. That's basically what they're trying to keep from happening to Gonsolin's tendon here. If you can catch it early, it's easier to heal because not as much has to be done. And this is really, really key because first, you hope that the medical staff there has the trust of the players, that instead of trying to hide an injury, they're telling them what's going on. They're like, I'm a little sore today than I normally am. And this is just a great medical staff. I mean, everybody around the league comes to Neil Elitrosh. Everybody around the NFL comes to Neil Elitrosh. He's one of the few guys I know that has both a Super Bowl ring and a World Series ring, and they're both pretty recent. But Ron Porterfield, the rest of the staff there, absolutely top-notch. The other thing, and we know they've been doing a lot more of this, is their analytics collective has been getting more data in terms of biomechanics. So maybe in that last start, they saw something that was a little bit different. Maybe he dropped his arm, or he wasn't getting as much extension, or his elbow was rotating a little slower. This is brand new data that we're still figuring out. And a lot of teams have been ignoring this for a long time. The Dodgers have not, and it's why they keep winning. And it may be the reason that they caught this so early.
Yeah. I mean, so we're 6 weeks away from the postseason. Obviously, there's a ton that we don't know as far as grading and stuff like that. If this is at the very front end, but it's enough to be called a strain and enough to go on the injured list, I mean, in your estimation, is there a chance that he's back before the postseason?
Yeah, I think there's a chance. I think you're also going to keep him rehabbing throughout. As long as there's a chance he can come back, I don't think it matters whether he comes back. You're going to shorten up the rotation anyway, most likely. We've got such a weird schedule. I just wrote about this the other day about how teams are looking at this, and the Dodgers and their Sixman. That was what I wrote about Friday.
Yeah.
Oops. Sorry. So, yeah, I think they can get him back because you don't really have to worry about the innings. He could go back to it's crazy to talk about a guy who was on the edge of winning 20 games going to the bullpen, but he's the guy who's done it most recently. Yeah. It's not like you're going to put Kershaw out there. Maybe you pair those two because you don't expect Kershaw to go super deep into games like he used to. Pair those two up, and that's pretty powerful, and they actually match pretty well now that I think about it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, briefly on that, because you did just write a piece talking about the six-man rotation and kind of some of the stuff that the Dodgers are looking at. They have recalled Michael Grove, so I suppose it's possible that they just bring a guy like Pepio or a guy like Grove up and stick with the six-man rotation when Kershaw's expected back Thursday and Friday. Tell us a little bit about what you were saying, because there was some interesting stuff in the blurb that I saw regarding even sleep schedules and stuff that they might be looking into.
Yeah, they're doing a lot. I wrote about that today in terms of the bye. And so you can read that at undertheknife.substack.com. I think, that's at the top. Everybody can read that, so that'll be free. But with the six-man, this wasn't some grand plan. You know, the five-man rotation came about because the Mets had 5 good starters. That was it. They couldn't decide who was really the worst one, so they just said, we'll go to 5. And everybody else did it too. But when you look around the league, not many teams had 4 good starters, let alone 5, let alone 6, as it looked like the Dodgers were going to do. So, there was talk about that they were going to do some skips in there. That I talked about some different ways they could do it. Dodgers, of course, weren't letting me in on the actual plan. But between the Dodgers and Zealous, they were getting a lot of ideas on how to best get their guys through those next 6 weeks, ready for the playoffs, deal with the likely bye, the travel schedule that you're facing. It's a whole new world. So simming it out it's just smart. And when it's smart, that's usually what the Dodgers are doing.
Yeah. One last thing on the Gonsolin front, because I meant to ask you this earlier. We know that he's nearing a career high in innings. I think if you include some minor league postseason innings, he has gone more than he has this year. I mean, is there a direct link between those two things? Obviously, look, I'm not trying to ask you to speculate too much, but is that the type of thing that would lead to the strain that we're talking about here?
Yes and no. I mean, we're so far beyond pitch counts and inning counts, but from outside, we don't have that kind of workload data that they do inside. I can't tell you how many throws he's doing on a daily basis. I can tell you his pitch count in a game, but I can't tell you what his warm-up was. And, when I was with Modus, we did a study. We were seeing guys burn essentially 50% of their energy with a warm-up.
Wow.
And so some teams have gotten significantly better at that. Some teams haven't. But I assume that the Dodgers are not looking at innings count. They're going to know so much more than us. Like I said, they've got Kinetrax data. They've got the Hawkeye data that every team has access to. They've likely got other systems that we don't even know about, plus their hands on the player. So I don't think they're working from inning counts. It's something we can look at. To me, more than anything, that's just kind of a little yellow flag that goes up, and you're like, hey, maybe this guy might be tired. So in my job, I call a source with the team and say, hey, is this guy getting tired? And they'll usually say, nah, he's fine. Because workload management has gotten a lot better over the last decade. You don't see players really hitting those big marks. Back in 2003 or 4, there was a big study that I did at Baseball Prospectus based on, at that point, we didn't have any of the data we do today. So we were looking at innings increases and where those were. And you did see an injury increase, but it was at a significant level where you were going, 20 and 30 innings more than you had gone before. And even that wasn't perfect. And I would pretty much ignore that, other than, like I said, as a kind of a reminder.
Yeah. No, it's interesting because, like you said, that's the data we have, but it is helpful to hear from somebody who's on the medical side to say, look, yes, there might be something there, but there's way more data behind the scenes. You're seeing the tip of the iceberg, and it's everything under the water that's the most important. So, hey, Will, we appreciate your time. Yeah, exactly. Will, we appreciate your time. Folks, you can check out his stuff, undertheknife.substack.com. Like he mentioned, follow him on social media at Injury Expert on Twitter. I'm sure he's going to have tons of content in the days to come as we learn more about Tony Gonsolin and stuff like that. So, Will, again, thank you for joining us. And everybody, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.